Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series here from the beautiful Bluegrass State. It is the Kentucky Speedway here tonight, the newly revamped Kentucky Speedway, 240 miles around this 1.5 mile racetrack. I'm Peter Short, and joining me here in the booth here tonight, as always, is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, great to be here in the Bluegrass State. Going to be interesting to see what this new Kentucky Speedway has for the Simbox trucks here tonight. 240 miles and only 2 races of the chase. A lot on the line here tonight.
Yes, certainly, and a relatively new track as far as these kind of more traditional 1.5-ish ovals are concerned. Kentucky, a relative newcomer to NASCAR prior to this upcoming season, that is. But a little bit different, kind of unique-ish for these 1.5s, almost similar to old Kansas mixed with Las Vegas, but kind of a slightly different challenge for these guys. The middle to the bottom line, I think, is what we're going to be seeing a lot of these guys using tonight. But, Peter, we also have quite a few newcomers tonight, and some of those guys are pretty far up front thus far in practice. It'll be interesting to see how those guys fare.
Yeah, in fact, we'll bring up those practice standings for you on the top of the screen. And Jason Freeman up at the top of the board right now. Look at that. We also have Mike Tellier there sitting in third in the number 97 machine. Both of those drivers, definitely no surprise to see them nice and fast at the top of the board. Of course, they're no stranger to us here on 3Y TV. They race in the Total Nonstop Racing League, which we broadcast here on Monday nights. But we saw a lot of the Jason and Jason show in the Total Nonstop Racing League. And speaking of Jason, the other Jason out there here tonight is Jason Gracias in the number 29 machine. It's number 29 at the top of the board, has number 98 stamped on the side of that Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet. So keep an eye out for Jason Gracias here tonight. Also going to be very fast. But of course, Drew, we can't talk about the Simbox Truck Series here in the intro without that man right there, James Lorello in the number 9 machine. And I'm going to bring up tonight's Simbox storylines and that third bullet point down there, early race penalties. James Lorello will be one of those drivers himself, as well as Steven Doziak. Both are going to have to take a drive-through, I believe, at the start of tonight's race, which are going to put both of them pretty far back in the pack.
Yeah, and for James Lorello, I think if a guy as competitive as he is, if you're going to have a penalty like that, like a drive-through, quite frankly, early on in the race is the best way for it to occur. It's going to give him time to recover, and that 9 has just been so quick everywhere that we have gone, and he's very quick here tonight. Newcomers aside, I mean, he might not be the fastest overall, but he's certainly the fastest of the week in, week out drivers here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. So I think that penalty, it's certainly going to present a challenge to James, but I don't think it's anything that he can't overcome, especially, I mean, even if there's only 1 or 2 cautions in this race, as long as it's after that penalty, I think that is, going to aid James Lorello in his march back up to the front that he's going to have to partake in order to get back up there and kind of run where he's accustomed to running. And, Kentucky's not one of those places that you expect a ton of cautions, but I think that based on what we've seen here, I think 1 or 2 probably should be expected, and I think that's all that 9 truck's going to need to be able to recover from that.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see him charge up through the field here tonight. And, of course, New Kentucky will be touching on that all night long. And, of course, 2 races to the chase. Going to be really interesting here tonight, Drew, to see which of these drivers we're going to bring as we move over into the Sim Racing Shirts Poll Shootout. We are going to bring up the point standings here because James Lorello and Bill Edwards, both of those drivers have clinched their way into the 10 drivers, which will make the Simbox chase for the championship. But then drivers down there near the bottom, Ben Adams was able to get himself above the cut line recently. He's now sitting there in 10th. And then you have Robert Dudley, Justin White. Both of those drivers really need a good race here tonight, Drew, in order to get themselves a little bit closer to drivers like a Ben Adams. In fact, even Jeffrey Johnson Jr. there sitting in 9th. He has a pretty good advantage over Ben Adams in that number 5 truck. So really, between Ben Adams and Robert Dudley, I think those are the 2 drivers who are going to battle out for the final chase position.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of for some perspective for our viewers, if you're not familiar with the points for the point structure for the NSRA Simbox Truck Series, essentially the maximum amount of points that you can earn in one race is going to be 43 points, which is including 1 point for leading the most laps, 1 for the most position gained, and 1 for leading the most laps, in addition to leading 1 lap. So a 20-point lead on somebody is fairly substantial, especially with 2 races left. It's certainly not out of the question, but based on a 30-car field, the most you're going to be able to gain is right around 35-ish points. So that 30-point buffer between, or almost right around 30-point buffer between 10th and 11th is a pretty substantial margin. So it's going to take a lot of work for Robert Dudley to get up there and contend for this championship. But it's certainly not impossible, especially as we're seeing trucks now start to take their outlaps, I believe, if not their first-time laps here at Kentucky Speedway. This track, based on practice, if you make a little bit of contact, you carry so much corner speed here at Kansas, and it looks really wide, but with how much speed you're carrying through the corners, it can be really difficult to save this truck, to get it back underneath you before you get into that outside wall, and that could result in some potentially catastrophic effects for some of these guys. It's certainly, it seems to be pretty straightforward. I think just based on the helicopter view of the track, so to speak, but it's going to be a real challenge here tonight, Peter.
Yeah, and of course, like I mentioned earlier on, this is the new Kentucky. Let's see if we can go on board with the league newcomer. This is Jason Freeman right here, headed down the backstretch, currently sitting 4th place on the leaderboard. James Lorello sitting on the provisional pole here with about 2 minutes left. A little bit more banking here, Drew, than Old Kentucky. Old Kentucky was categorized by a lot of bumps, especially in terms of number 3 and 4. Now, 3 and 4 are, in my opinion, 3 and 4 are a little bit more similar to what we used to see. Meanwhile, turns 1 and 2 have a lot more banking than what we used to see at this racetrack. So you see Jason Freeman, he's going to pull off the racetrack here. Let's see if we can pick up one of the other drivers out there on the racetrack, including the number 24 machine, Ben Mashburn. There he is. He's currently down in 22nd position, trying to pick up some time here. This might be the second of his 2 time laps. We'll see whether or not he jumps up the board, and it does not appear like he does. We do have quite a few trucks left to qualify, including the man who was 3rd place in the practice session. There he is, the number 97 of Mike Floppy Tallier, and he's going to go to top of the board. Mike Floppy Tallier on the provisional pole, 30.744, just 0.05 of a second faster than James Lorello, and that Canadian flying around the racetrack here, trying to pick up a little bit of time on lap number 2. But wouldn't that be a story here, Drew, if that number 97 can get the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a storyline when a guy that hasn't made a start in a series kind of comes in and does what Mike Tellier's doing here. As his second lap would have been quickest for P2 had that first lap not occurred. So a really, really strong effort there by Mike Tellier. But I have participated in quite a few, not as many as I would like to, but quite a few of NSR races and on other days of the week. And Mike Tellier is always up front in those things. So it is no surprise to me. I don't think it's any surprise to anybody else in this field who has run those races on the other days of the week in NSRA. But to come in kind of the NSRA Premier Series, so to speak, right? Like this is kind of their signature oval series. To come in here and take it to guys like James Lorello and Mitchell Adams, who are starting P2 and P3, heck of an effort by that 97 truck.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Very, very impressive for that number 97 machine, kind of coming out of the blue here in the Bluegrass State to take tonight's Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award. Very, very impressive for that Canadian driver. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of Mike Floppy Tellier here tonight. But as the trucks start to grid up here around this racetrack, a little bit unique grid at the Kentucky Speedway. You can see them all kind of lined up there on pit row. That's kind of what iRacing is doing nowadays with the grid. So that's always great to see. And of course, it's also great to see people in the chat. Happy 2021. This is the first broadcast of 2021 for 3Wide TV. We've got Tana Himmelman in the chat, Peter John Serto, Stephen Doziak Jr. saying thanks for the penalty shout out, and Jason Gracias as well. But let's see if we can find the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner. There he is. Mike Tellier will pick up that award here tonight. S2R on that truck. And of course, Drew, we've seen those S2R trucks very, very quick. In fact, Bill Edwards and James Lorello, the only drivers who have punched their tickets into the Simbox chase. But I think it's time here, Drew, to go through tonight's starting lineup.
Yeah, we talked about it. Mike Tellier, our pole sitter tonight. Starting alongside him will be James Lorello, a guy that we see up front all too often here in the Simbox Truck Series. Mitchell Adams will be starting on the inside of that second row with Chris Darling, a really solid effort for that 47 truck, who doesn't always, find his legs in qualifying like he does in practice. Really good effort by Chris Darling. Jason Freeman, another newcomer, will be starting in P5 with the 84 of TJ Buck, who tends to excel here at these 1.5s. He will be starting P6. The 14 of Jeff Price will be starting in 7th position with the 971 of Nathan Maurer starting to his outside. Jamar Dumas, once again, with a really good qualifying effort. That 28 always seems to do well in qualifying. We'll see if he can back that up here in tonight's race. He will be starting in 9th position. And Joshua Sobel in that 30 truck will be rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, a little bit different look on that number 30 this week. We've seen him have a good few races over the past month and a half, so hopefully he can back that up here tonight. On the inside of row number 6, Adam Dama in the number 82 machine with Justin White, one of the drivers on the outside looking in, starting to his outside in 12th. Row number 7, Philip Scott and Bill Edwards, one of the drivers who's already punched his ticket into the chase. Row number 8, Jordan Shepler and Andrew Himmelman. We'll be watching both of those drivers to charge up to the front here tonight. Row number 9, Paul Bilson and Matt Vander Kooi. Row number 10, and rounding out your top 20, Doug Milliner and Peter Serto.
As mentioned, Peter Serto starting in 20th, and on 21st will be the 10 of Monty Glover, with 77 of Doug Neal starting in 22nd. Raymond Heilig in that 7 truck will be starting in 23rd, with another newcomer, that 12 with the old Ray Evernham style numbers on that 12 truck. He will be starting in 24th. Ben Mashburn starting in 25th. A little bit of not a great starting effort, but we'll kind of quickly get through here. He'll be starting 25th. Barry Knapp in 26th. Ben Adams 27th. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. 28th. Jason Gracias 29th. Robert Dudley in 30th. Got a lot of ground to make up. Steven Doziak will be starting 31st. Stan Hausman 32nd. Brian Bradley 33rd. Nicholas Bradley 34th. And we are green here at Kentucky Motor Speedway, as Mike Tellier will be leading them down into turn 1. Pretty good start there for that 97 truck, as he will be leaving it to James Lorello and Mitchell Adams to be battling not for first position, as we've seen so often this year, but in fact for second position, as here comes that 94 of Jason Freeman, who had so much pace in practice, didn't quite have the qualifying effort that I think that he thought he probably should have had. But no time wasted for that 94 truck, as he is challenging for third here. Peter on lap 1, but Mike Tellier will lead this lap 1.
Yeah, there's some good hard racing right here. There's the number 47 machine of Christopher Darling. He's got the 971 Nathan Maurer to his outside. They were almost 3 wide there through the trial. A little clean first lap here. That's what you want to see as they work their way around the Kentucky Speedway, working their way in through turn number 3 and 4. Look at Joshua Sobel, that bright green number 30 machine, a little bit of a new look for that truck this week. Really, really liking that green scheme. But you know what they say about green paint schemes in racing, Drew? They supposedly have an old adage where they have bad luck. Now, do want to make notice that Steven Doziak right there has done his drive-through penalty. He is currently being scored 1 lap down. You see him trying to come back up there on the racetrack, being scored 34th out of the 34 trucks. Big field here tonight at Kentucky Speedway. In fact, a bigger field than I was expecting. Meanwhile, back up the front, side by side for the race lead.
Yeah, it didn't take Mitchell Adams a very long to mount a challenge to take that lead from our pole sitter, that 97 of Mike Tellier. It'll be interesting to see, when does James Lorello serve his penalty that we think he's going to have to serve based on the communications that we've seen. But it doesn't seem to matter too much, as he is right there in third, right behind his teammate, the 97, who is trying to retake the lead from Mitchell Adams as they go through 3 and 4. Hopefully this will be a preview of the end of the race. It seems like that High Line is able to carry quite a bit of momentum onto that front stretch, as Mitchell Adams is able to lead that lap. But no sign of James Lorello coming to pit road this time, Peter. When will that penalty be assessed?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see. Perhaps the NSRA officials decided that the 9 of Lorello wasn't at fault for the contact at Watkins Glen. I do believe there was that contact that he had about, I think, around the third race distance, around lap number 12 or something. And that contact led to a spin, and he did not come down pit road. And from what I saw, there was going to be a penalty assessed, but here we are working lap number 6, and up at the front, it's still a battle, including Lorello himself, the 49 of Mitchell Adams, and there's Mike Tellier, and here comes Lorello trying to get up to second, and look at TJ Buck. Drew, you mentioned it. TJ Buck, one of those drivers who excels on these mile-and-a-half racetracks, once again trying to get himself dirty up for the race lead.
Yeah, we saw him in the preseason be really quick at Texas. We saw him be really quick at Texas, obviously, in earlier this year in the regular season in Kentucky, not dissimilar to Texas, especially kind of older Texas, almost has that kind of higher banked feel that old Texas had before they decided to alter it in ways that I do not particularly care for, but not terribly surprising to see that 84 truck be racing up towards the front. The 97 lost a little bit of ground here now to his teammate, as we're just in front of that 84 truck, that red, blue, and white scheme. That interesting pink and black scheme, which kind of a recolorization of what that 50 truck of Bill Edwards tends to run every week. Kind of cool, very high contrast scheme that 97's running. But he is battling with his teammate, and Mitchell Adams out front is really, really liking what he's seeing. But here we're looking, there the 9 truck goes there, Peter. You kind of caught it off the side of your screen. There's that 9 truck serving his penalty right now. He took a long time to serve this, maybe trying to, almost like F1, right? Where you try to hold off taking that penalty as long as possible and trying to get that field to be a little more spread out. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he's still going to fall way, 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 way back. But it'll be interesting to see where this 9 truck comes out. Steven Doziak ended up a lap down as here they come through, I believe, 3 and 4. I think the 9's going to stay on the lead lap here, Peter, if he can get up to speed in time. That blue cone rule is really going to hurt this 9 truck. If he can emerge onto the racing surface through 1 and 2, he will carry a little bit more momentum than he is, but I think he's going to stay on the lead lap here.
Yeah, we're looking right now on your race leader, Mitchell Adams, and you see that number 9 truck right there. That inside line, Drew, you mentioned that blue cone rule, and for all the people watching who don't know what that is, there is a blend line on the backstretch. That is the point at which you can blend back up onto the racing surface, much like, if you were going through a yield sign, let's say getting on the side of the road, you have that big white line that you're not supposed to go over if you're driving your car. Well, they have a similar thing in racing, and if you look over the left-hand side of your screen, you see a blue cone. We just flashed by it. It's kind of hard to see here at night, but that's the point at which you can go back on the racing surface. So you have to stay down there on the flat, the apron as they call it, until you get to that point on the racetrack, and then you can get back up. You see that number 9 truck, I mean, he isn't far from going a lap down here, Drew, and with Mitchell Adams, if he has the pace to run down Lorello, and if we don't get a caution here before Lorello falls a lap down, Lorello could be in trouble.
He certainly could be, but he has so much pace that I think just kind of coming out, I mean, ahead of Mitchell at all, is I think what he's looking for when you look at relative to the other truck that received that penalty, the 05, who is solidly a lap down, the 05 of Steve Doziak Jr. I think the 9's not in too bad of a position. Granted, he gets a caution, probably several cautions. He needs one caution to catch himself up back towards the pack, and then he's going to need one about 10, 15, 20, maybe 50 laps down the road to kind of reset the field as he's making his way through traffic, because you inevitably lose time racing other drivers relative to the leader who is not having to deal with that stuff. So James Lorello certainly behind the 8 ball, so to speak, but this is not unwinnable for him, as we have seen all sorts of crazy circumstances pan out and allow drivers in situations that we thought they could have never recovered from get up there and lead and win races here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. Looking back here, I believe that's the 7 truck of Ray Hyland. Yes, sir, I believe it is. And that is right around 22nd, 21st position with Doug Neal, Peter Certo, Jason Gracias, another newcomer who I was kind of expecting a little bit more pace from, maybe, from that 29 truck. Started 29th, up to 20th, not too bad of a recovery. That 5 of Ben Adams having a decent run, recovering a little bit from his lackluster qualifying effort. And Robert Dudley as well. All of these guys. Robert Dudley. Ooh, caution, Peter.
Caution flag is out. We'll see what this caution flag has been thrown for. And I think it is one of the drivers who is already locked in to the championship. So that's the good news. Here's the number 50 of Bill Edwards right there on the center of your screen. And man, he gets off the racing surface here, Drew, and that must be some type of hardware failure or something, because, man, he just kind of nosed it into the wall, comes to a stop. Doesn't look like too much damage on that truck, but boy, that is a very strange caution here on lap number 16.
It almost looks like a frames problem, or I know I've had it to where, I race on an old school like IKEA desk. I don't certainly have a sim rig set up by any sorts, and sometimes my monitor will come on like the power cord will kind of come unhinged from it, and I'll just lose my monitor for a split second every now and then. I got to kind of check it pre-race, and who knows what happened? Maybe one of those kind of hardware gremlins surfaced for that 50 truck, but nonetheless, he's certainly glad he's locked in. Because he has quite a bit of damage on that 50 truck and is going to have probably a pretty long race if he's not able to get that truck all fixed up. But pit stops for our leaders. Mitchell Adams, that 97 truck of Mike Tellier. Chris Darling, who we haven't mentioned very much, but is running in third position coming into these pit stops. And now we are looking, who are we looking at, Pete?
We're looking at Stephen Doziak, who will be the first driver tonight to pick up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, so he'll get waved around. Meanwhile, we'll go back up to the people who are making their pit stops. We'll see who wins the race off pit road. There's Mike Tellier, and it looks like Tellier will win that race off pit road with a very quick pit stop, only 10 seconds. Looks like Tellier here electing to take 2 tires, Drew, which is a very gutsy call at this, at this point. Hopefully the 2-tire strategy works out for him, because it kind of felt like we had a green flag run feel there. Everyone was kind of minding their P's and Q's, and if this doesn't work out for Tellier, he could be falling back through the pack. But on the flip side, Drew, better to learn what 2 tires is going to do now rather than later in the race.
Very true. You don't really experience the benefits of 2 tires here under caution, right? Mike Tellier was not lacking in track position, and you don't really gain the track position that you would gain by taking about a 6, 7, maybe more second shorter stop when you take 2 tires under green, right? You get that massive benefit, which kind of offsets the potential pace disadvantage that you're going to receive by taking 2 tires. The 97 won't be able to experience that, but he will be able to know how this truck reacts to 2 tires. Certainly, if you're feeling pretty tight with the setup, and if you're not wearing those left sides very much, taking right sides only can really help loosen up that truck and help it in the handling department. Now, if you're loose, that's kind of the opposite of what you want to be doing. Typically, that's not always the case in iRacing, but with these fixed sets that these guys use, especially the iRacing defaults, as we are running here tonight, you typically are going to be on the tighter side. And so taking those right sides will give you a nice, fresh set of right side tires. Your left sides will be nice and hot and sticky, and that'll actually help the truck rotate just a little bit more. What are we looking at here at the 98 truck / not actually the 98 truck, Peter?
Yeah, number 29 on the ticker, number 98 on the side of that truck. We're looking at some right side damage to the number 98 of Jason Gracias. You can see just an indication of it right there. Gracias, one of the few drivers on pit road who elected to get some damage repaired, including the number 7 of Ray Heilig, who is right back behind him. He loves his dog. in that number 7 truck. Meanwhile, looks like we also had Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in the number 33. Looks like he decided to get some damage repaired. I'm just looking at pit stop times, and these drivers had significantly longer pit stops. Same thing with Bill Edwards. Gerald Baker, the third in the number 12 machine. There he is, newcomer to the league. Lots of Lizards, of course. Lots of Lizards did sponsor one of the races earlier this year, so great to see that number 12 right there. A little bit of right side damage. You can see it right here as he comes across the start-finish line, as well as the number 5 machine of Ben Adams, who was one of the drivers who didn't have a great qualifying time, Drew, and we had mentioned that he came into tonight on the border. He was the 10th place driver in points. Well, he's still running back there in the pack, currently 26th position. Started this race in 27th, so that number 5 has a lot of work to do as the race goes on, but I gotta say, so far this year, we have seen that Ben Adams seems to creep up through the field and gets himself into a pretty good position by the end of the night. So I don't think I'm all too concerned about that. Meanwhile, pace car lights have turned off, so we're going to get set to go back to green flag action. Look at all those trucks. Huge field here tonight, and that's awesome to see here, Drew, at this point of the season.
Certainly, in my experience, the closer you get to the chase, and the less likely it is for a bunch of drivers to make the chase, you start to see that car count dwindle, and that's not the case here tonight. So a great job by guys to show up and just go out there and give it their all and what will be, and not let that champion's implication stuff, kind of determine their participation, because quite frankly, only one dude's going to win the championship. Chances are it's not going to be you unless you're one of those guys that we've seen been up front all year long. But here we are back to green. Mike Tellier leading the field to the start-finish line. A great restart by that 97 truck, and we will see what do these two tires do here, Peter.
Yeah, going to be really interesting to see. He has a good jump. Now here comes Chris Darling in the number 47 truck. He's going to get himself up into second as the field flashes on by. I got to say, we saw some great action early in the run at the start of the race. I'm sure we're going to see more of that right here. Looks like a lot of the field trying to get single file. Meanwhile, in the back of the pack, 2 and 3 wide, there was the number 50 of Edwards, struggling with that damage that he picked up under the one and only caution flag that we've had here tonight. But up at the front, still Mike Tellier, 2 tires on the right-hand side of that truck. How will it work? We'll wait and find out. Chris Darling now up to second. And look at TJ Buck battling with the number 44 machine. Philip Scott having a good run here tonight so far.
2 tires is certainly paying off right now for that 97 truck. But this is typically when 2 tires is at their height, right? This is when your grip level's highest, is right at the start. It tends to be further into a run where you start to pay the penalty for those left sides not being quite as fresh as your competitors. We will see if that's the case with that 97 truck. Looking further back through the field, I believe at the 30 of Josh Sobel in that 13 truck, they're racing him. That is Jordan Shepler. Nathan Maurer involved there as well, as is Jeff Price in that 14 truck. Is that truck on the outside, right behind that green truck of the 30 truck. You mentioned Josh Sobel's new scheme. I really dig it. That kind of brighter green that he's sporting there certainly pops. The scheme maybe not as much, but certainly that shade of green really reminds me of the old Bobby Labonte Interstate Battery scheme, which was always one of my personal favorites back there in the early to mid 2000s. But back up front, Mike Tellier slowly being closed in on by the 47 and 49 trucks behind him. And Chris Darling making a good run of things here up to second position. And this field really closing in on that 97 truck, rather, who got a great restart. And ever since then, just lap by lap by lap, has been losing just a bit of that lead every single time. And Mitchell Adams here now falling back to fourth, Pete.
Yeah, and you see the number 4 machine of Philip Scott right in front of him. We're riding on board with your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion right here, working his way around the Kentucky Speedway. And I gotta say, Drew, the 2 tracks that I have thought that are very similar have been Kansas and Kentucky. especially with this newly reconfigured Kansas. And of course, it was Adams that went to victory lane at Kansas. Meanwhile, right in front of him, we got a front row seat of this one because it is side by side for the race lead. And here comes Philip Scott, going to take it 3 wide for the race lead on lap number 25. He thinks a little bit better of it, but Mike Tellier all the way up to the top side of the racetrack. We're side by side for the race lead. Darling on the inside, Tellier on the outside.
Yeah, Peter, I certainly didn't have my mic keyed, but I was kind of yelling to myself about that situation. Late dive by that 44 going into turn 3, but it all worked out as that high lane seems to be really working there for that 97 and his ability to hold off those challengers, the 47 and the 44 trucks behind him, as Mitchell Adams now trying to make that high lane work and potentially regain that third and second position as he's to the outside of Philip Scott in that 44 truck. Will Chris Darling use that outside lane to challenge that 97 of Mike Tellier? Not quite. A big arc through the corner right on the tailgate of that 97 truck, trying to loosen Mike Tellier up there as, quite a bit of aggressive racing there as Chris Darling will take the inside lane through 3 and 4. Going to be looking to just get off the corner a little bit better than he has in the past. Not quite. Man, those 2 tires are really working out for Mike Tellier here, Pete.
Yeah, man, I gotta say, this is some fantastic racing here, and this is only lap number 28, folks. This is going to be one that you're going to want to watch all night long. The Bluegrass 240 here on 3 Wide TV. Simbox Truck Series action for the National Sim Racing Association, putting on a show for the fans. Garrett Gleason just now joining us. Colin Ullery in the chat here tonight. We didn't mention this, but Colin Ullery is one of those drivers on the inside of the top 10. Not in the field here tonight, serving a penalty after Watkins Glen a couple weeks back there before the holidays. So hopefully, Colin, you can sit back, relax. I don't think you're going to fall outside of the top 10 here tonight as things all shake down. So that's the good news, and hopefully we can see you back in action here next week in the Simbox Truck Series action. Here comes the 47 of Darling once again, trying to get around the 97 of Tellier. You see Tellier way up the racetrack, trying to run that Dale Jr. line. Will this be the moment that Darling gets to the race lead?
Darling carried so much speed through 1 and 2 that last time by, rather, that I was wondering if he was going to throw it down in there through 3 and 4. He did. The 97, I think, got a little bit higher than he was intending to, and that really allowed the 47 to get a really good position going into 1 and 2. And I would be surprised if the 47 isn't able to clear him there. Yeah, the 97, man, he's running a really high lane, but really carried some great speed through 3 and 4 and is going to be able to stay to that outside of the 47 of Chris Darling. Man, that can be so frustrating as a driver on the inside where you think you really nailed that corner. You think the guy to your outside just way overdrove it, and then here he comes on the corner exit. He's taken that longer route around the track, able to carry more speed, and you're not quite able to clear him. But I think Chris Darling here through 3 and 4 should be able to completely clear that 97 truck. That's close. Oh man, that's close. But Mike Tellier really putting up a big fight to the outside.
Yeah, Tellier is like that gnat that just won't go away. That number 97 once again gets his nose out front, but here comes Darling. Maybe Darling's finally got it. It seems like he has. Tellier might have washed up the racetrack a little bit. Ooh, there's sparks flying in the back. I think that was Robert Dudley who might have made contact with the turn 2 wall, but now Tellier well up the racetrack again. Philip Scott's going to try and sneak his way up into the second position in the Federated Auto Parts Ford F-150, but look at this gaggle of truck. You could throw a blanket over this group of trucks from the 44 all the way back to the 13 of Jordan Scheffler and even the 30 back there, Jeff Price, and also the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman trying to work his way inside the top 10. We mentioned earlier that he started back in 15th, and we expected him to charge up towards the front in the Auburn University number 4 machine. Now Tellier going to dive back underneath the 44. This is some stellar stuff here tonight. I wasn't expecting this, and this is only lap 33. I've mentioned it a couple times. 44, Scott cuts down in front of the 97 there of Tellier. Now TJ Buck in the Captain Crunch machines trying to captain his way into a third position around the outside of 97. And Tellier clipped the apron there just a little bit. I think Freeman might have done the same. That's going to have to make them check up. And looks like Tellier's going to lose out third to TJ Buck. Wow, this has been some stellar racing.
Yeah, I think that 97's really starting to feel the effects of those two tires. He cannot carry speed on the bottom of the racetrack right now. Whenever a driver gets to his outside, they are getting by that 97 truck relatively quickly compared to what we saw earlier in this run. And that battle between the 44, the 97, and the 84 allowed Chris Darling a little bit of breathing room. We know that with these trucks, the draft can be so significant in kind of keeping the field wound up that if you're able to break that a little bit and kind of able to establish your track position all by yourself, that can really do wonders for you later in these runs by not being run down by guys that you might feel aren't quite as quick. As Mitchell Adams is now looking to the inside of that 97 truck, our pole sitter. Mitchell Adams, certainly not a guy who is shy about these passing maneuvers. Is not a whole lot of room between he and that 97, and he took it all, and the 97 got right up on his back bumper entering turn 3. But yeah, that 97 seems to kind of be struggling here right now, and like we kind of mentioned in the caution, the thing about two tires is under green conditions, you're going to be between 6, 9, 10 seconds quicker than the guys around you, depending on your fuel load that you take. But you're going to be a little slower, right? And under green conditions, that shorter pit stop time all can potentially offset that slower pace that you're going to be experiencing relative to your competitors. Well, under caution, what we saw with this 97 truck is you don't get that 9 seconds at the start of this run in advantage in track position, right? You don't get that advantage. You're starting on relatively even to the rest of your competitors. Now, in the case of Mike Taylor, he was leading the race and controlled that restart, but he got to a second lead, and then it just got chipped away. And now Mike Taylor's fallen back to the 7th position as Nathan Maurer in the 971 truck just got by him, and Andrew Himmelman in that 4 is threatening him. And I gotta be thinking that if this goes for a full green run, this 97 truck has really hurt himself as far as his abilities to really challenge later in this race are going to be concerned, because it's not going to get better here, Peter, right? This is only going to get worse for Mike Taylor. That tire disadvantage isn't going to even itself out. It's going to become exponentially worse as that 4 truck got a great run off of turn 2, is going to look to the inside. We'll see if that 97 can fight him off, but I think this 97 truck is in some real trouble here, Peter.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, Drew, how much did the number 97 of Tellier use of his tires? Because he had that disadvantage early in the run, we saw him able to hold on to the lead of the race, but perhaps he was working the 2 fresh tires that he did have a little bit harder than the others. We see Himmelman there make the pass for 7th to be the highest he's been all night. And that's just going to hurt him as the run goes on, because he's got 2 old tires. We know that. They've been on the racetrack now for 40 laps. Granted, we will be coming up on pit stops fairly soon, probably in the next 10 to 12 laps here, as these trucks do run a reduced fuel tank. But Tellier here definitely sliding back. You're seeing the number 28 to Jamar Dumas just inside the top 10. Joshua Sobel right back behind him. He's on the outside of the top 10 in points, trying to work his way a little bit closer to the top 10 in points. It's really been a late season resurgence for Josh Sobel. And really, you think about a lot of races, Drew, where Sobel's had a lot of bad luck. Is the 97 coming down pit road? Looks like he is. The 97 right there of Mike Tellier is coming down pit road. So he's had enough of those tires, and now it's going to be interesting to see if he forces the hand of the other drivers on the lead lap. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Chris Darling continues to lead. He's got about a 0.6 of a second gap over Philip Scott. Mitchell Adams there running in 3rd, about a second behind Darling. All's clean and green for this man right here. And how about the number 9 of Lorello, Drew? Of course, he was one of those drivers who had to take that penalty. He did so, I believe, on lap number 8. Came down pit road, almost fell a lap down, got that caution, which was his teammate Bill Edwards in the S2R camp. And now he's got himself almost back inside the top 10. He's knocking on the door with Jeff Price right in front of him.
Yeah, certainly that 9 truck has done a fantastic job. I think the big worry is that you start to kind of get those those kind of classes of guys almost, right? You get like one, like first is gone, second, third, and fourth are racing each other. Then it's a couple seconds to fourth, fifth, and sixth, which is a couple more seconds between seventh and eighth. Then ninth is a few seconds behind him, 10th, right? Like so on and so forth. And that when you get that really strong, strung out field, it can be really challenging to run down the leaders. But that's not been the case thus far in this run. And now that is an effect of a shorter run, which these guys experience with these smaller fuel loads. But a great job by that 9 truck cutting his way through the field. Is now we're seeing a bunch of guys respond. The 9 of James Lorello coming on, 49 of Mitchell Adams, 4 of Andrew Himmelman. Oh, man. Oh, the 2 truck almost bent it coming on pit road. But a 3 wide on pit road. Luckily, there's not a ton of guys or real-life pit crew members on pit road. Is now looking at this 2 truck. And is he just going to leave this braking a little late and lock up these rears? That's what I have a feeling. Yeah, you see, he kind of almost took an early apex here, Peter. And so he still is as inputting wheel as he's getting on the brakes. And he's also coming in pretty quickly. I think that's going to be more yeah, wow. I mean, heck, 30 degrees sideways right there. That 2 truck was coming onto pit road, and I don't think there was a penalty there. I think the penalty really was losing all that time getting that sideways. But out front, I believe we are looking at our current leader. Yes, we are. That 84 of TJ Buck with Jeff Price just under a half a second, maybe just over 4/10 behind him, as that 84 truck is now coming down pit road. Is this pit cycle is in full effect, and it can be really hard to kind of judge how this is working out for guys. Because of the way that iRacing scoring works. You're not really going to know a real picture of how all of this is playing out until the next lap. But I do know that according to live timing and scoring, Mike Tellier has taken track position over from that 47 truck of Chris Darling, who was our leader coming into these pit stops. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out, Peter, as Jeff Price coming onto pit road. That's a nice, clean entry right there by that 14 truck. Maybe a little conservative there, but now Jeffrey Johnson Jr. will be taking over that race lead as he continues to stay out. And I got to question this. I don't really think you're getting a ton of advantage here. I think lap 40 was that magic number, and then, Peter, what would be the next magic number that you're trying to cut a pit stop out after lap 40?
Well, here's an interesting thought, Drew. Right now we have 112 laps to go, and it'll be 112 laps to go this time. We've seen these. Oh, is Jeffrey Johnson Jr. out of fuel? He might be. He's definitely slow in that number 33 truck right now. You see a little bit of right side damage. Maybe he's just waiting to come down pit road. But we're seeing Jeffrey Johnson Jr. right here get 30 laps of fuel. So, you do the math. You really need to get to 90 laps to go for that window to be open, and that's in 22 laps from now. So I don't think there's a whole lot that Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Was getting out there on the racetrack. Meanwhile, the race lead will be handed over to Gerald Baker III, at least briefly. He's also on pit road, so Mike Tellier will now inherit the race lead. And remember, he was one of the first trucks on pit road now 7 laps ago. He has 3 lap older tires than Chris Darling, Mitchell Adams, and Philip Scott, who are chasing him down. In fact, we got a battle back there as they come into view, because Mitchell Adams and Philip Scott are side by side going off into turn number 3, and also they got Chris Darling right in their crosshairs as well. So I don't think Mike Tellier made a bad call. He's not going to have to come down pit road more than any of these other trucks around him, because they pitted just inside 120 laps to go. And with these 30-lap intervals between pit stops, they'll be able to make it here on, I believe, 3 more pit stops to the end. Tristan Maher in the chat saying, awesome racing, guys. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome here tonight, Tristan. Maybe you can get in on the NSRA Simbox Truck Series action. We got Jason Gracias in here. We got Jason Freeman in here. We got Mike Tellier. You're one of those TNR gangs, so maybe we'll see you on the racetrack here soon. There's been a little bit of discussion about the number 4 of Drew Himmelman picking up a new computer for Christmas, which that's really, really awesome. There he is on the screen. He was one of those drivers who had actually worked his way into the top 5, Drew, before that round of pit stops all started. He pitted 6 laps ago. He's running with a couple of the other trucks there that pitted with him. There goes Joshua Sobel in the number 30. So great to hear that the 4 of Himmelman has a new computer. I know he had some overheating problems at one point during the season that took him out of a race. So great to see that, and putting together a really solid run here tonight in that Auburn University number 4 Silverado. There we see the number 16 machine a little bit further in front of him. That's a truck that is really struggling right now. Of course, driven by Brian Bradley, 29th right now. A lot of right side damage here, Drew. And at these 1.5 mile racetracks, even though this is a little bit flatter than some tracks like Kentucky, 1.5 miles, man, a little bit of damage absolutely kills you around these types of racetracks.
It certainly can, especially anything on that right side, right? It can make you so very tight. I really am looking forward to the day when all of the stuff on iRacing, all of the content has that new damage model, because I know in the K&N stuff that I've raced, it really helps with kind of that overarching driving dynamics change that you get when you get left side, right side, front, rear damage, engine damage. All that stuff seems to be fairly leveled out with that new damage model in the K&N stuff, where you can have a ton of damage and you're still on pace, and sometimes a relatively light hit can unfortunately result in huge damage, just like it can in real life, I guess. But I think that we're all looking forward to the day in which that is released service-wide in iRacing. The sooner, the better. But, it's until then, you got to really take care of that right front fender, because you're just hurting yourself when you get that thing all scrubbed up and you get that right front tire exposed to the air. The truck's not going to like that. It doesn't in real life, and it certainly doesn't in the sim. And I think that we're seeing that 29/98 truck experiencing that right now as Peter Serto now goes to his inside and will likely be taking over that 18th position as that 2 truck that we saw have that dramatic pit entry of Justin White that we're looking at now in 16th position. He started 12th. That certainly didn't help his track position coming on pit road as he experienced that kind of interesting pit entry. But he's doing okay here in 17th, 16th, 17th, right around there. Looking forward through the field just a little bit. That is the 10 truck, I believe. At least on Trading Paints. Yeah, that is Monty Glover there down in 31st. But I think we should go back up front here, Peter, as Mike Tellier has been caught and passed by Chris Darling and Mitchell Adams, Philip Scott, the 971 truck, rather, the 94 truck. You're really seeing that short pitting Mike Tellier still at a disadvantage with those tires, as he went from first position 2 laps ago to now outside of the top 5 this lap. So kind of a dramatic turn of events for that 97 truck, and there's no short pitting right now. He is kind of stuck where he's at. It seems like that 97 might have been burning his stuff up just a little bit, as Chris Darling, Mitchell Adams, and the rest of the top 5 were able to make their way by him relatively easily. Man, you see him struggling through the center off, as that 9 truck of James Lorello is going to get by him pretty quickly. And that can be the case here in these fixed setups. The guys that are, and I know I'm certainly one of them, that are kind of qualifying heroes can really struggle with the tightness that these sets develop through the center and later stages of a run. If you overdrive these things, if you put a degree more of wheel into the truck than it needs, you're going to scrub that right front, and you are going to be in major trouble for the rest of that run. And I think that's what that 97 truck is experiencing right now. But Jason Freeman, another newcomer, now challenging for 4th position, got by, in fact, Philip Scott for 4th position, and is now challenging Ethan Maurer for 3rd position, the bottom step of the podium. And that would be a heck of a debut for that 94 truck here, Peter, as we're really seeing the guys that are up front, they're really maintaining themselves. And one guy that we mentioned had a penalty, by the way, and had a caution that kind of saved his skin, and then but that caution only got him to the tail of the field, and now he's worked his way up to 6th position, and now challenging for 5th is that 9 truck of James Lorello, just at the back of the camera right there. right? He's not far out of the picture. And this is the group of leaders right here. And he's making a move under that 44 truck of Philip Scott and James Lorello moving into that top 5 now, Pete.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, out of these top 5, Nathan Maurer and Jason Freeman actually have the freshest tires out of the lot. The number 9 of Lorello pitted with Darling and Adams. They both pitted about 17 laps ago. Maurer and Freeman both pitted a lap later, so a little bit fresher tires on the 971 and the 94. That could pay dividends with them. As this run continues on, we're over halfway now through this particular fuel run to the next pit stop. So gonna be interesting to see how that all works out. Meanwhile, Mike Tellier has lost another position. There you see the 7 of Ray Heilig dropping a lap down. There is Himmelman and the 97 of Tellier. These two locked in this battle for the 7th position. Look at TJ Buck back behind them. Buck has, I think, had some contact with the outside wall, perhaps more than once, but doesn't seem to be affecting that number 84 Captain Crunch Chevrolet all too much. There you see Tellier once again now falling into the clutches of Buck. You see Tellier really struggling out of turn number 2. It won't be all too long before we see Joshua Sobel, who's running back there in the 10th position, start to close in. But Drew, one thing I wanted to mention for the viewers watching at home, we did have a couple of pit road speeding penalties under that last round of green flag pit stops. Looks like Robert Dudley, Ray Heilig, Monty Glover all had extended pit stops. Whether or not that was due to damage repair or a pit road speeding penalty, I would say on Monty Glover and Ray Heilig, I believe both of those are definitely speeding penalties. So both of those drivers now finding themselves a couple of laps down. And for Robert Dudley in the number 15, he needed a good race here tonight because he was one of those drivers on the outside looking in. He's shown a lot of pace this season in the Simbox Truck Series. Just hasn't quite been able to have the consistency that he's needed to get into the chase. And I believe with this race here tonight, if he can't find himself 2 laps higher than where he is right now, there will be no way he'll be making the Simbox chase here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you're not in the top 10 currently, you have to have some exceptional races, both tonight and next week, to give yourself an actual shot to get in there. It's going to be a challenge for everybody who's not inside that top 10 currently. But 2 guys that don't have to worry about that, James Lorello and luckily that 50 truck of Bill Edwards, who is down in 21st. Those 2 guys are the only drivers that are currently locked in. We will see how that changes given the outcome of tonight's race. But the 971 and Nathan Maurer, this is about as good a form as we've seen out of Nathan thus far this year. He is now challenging Mitchell Adams for 2nd position. Man, a heck of a run for that 971 truck. We've seen flashes of this in the past, but I think that this is by far the furthest up in the field that he has competed all year. So got to give Nathan his just deserves, because it is certainly working out for him tonight, and he is going to be wanting to keep up this pace, as he is not too far from challenging for this race lead, as is 2 trucks behind him, that 94 of Jason Freeman, another one of those kind of newcomers that we've been talking about, one of those to use an older NASCAR term, those young guns, so to speak, regardless of age, relative to their experience in NSRA. We will see what he is able to do as we look at their laps the last time by. Nathan Maurer a full 10th quicker than Chris Darling. And so we'll see what that 971 truck can do here, Peter. As looking back through the field, Mike Tellier continues to lose positions, down in 10th position now, as he continues his fall from grace, so to speak, as he is really struggling with that 97 truck. What are you seeing out there, Pete?
I'm seeing the number 49 machine go back for the 2nd position, takes it away from Nathan Maurer, so that was pretty short-lived. Nathan Maurer has 3 top 5s to his name this season, 6 top 10s, trying to pick up top 5 number 4 here tonight and possibly win number 1 on the season. I know there was a poll this week, and a lot of people saying it was very unlikely for a first-time winner here tonight at Kentucky, but we have a couple of drivers up there, including the 971, including Jason Freeman in the 94. Both of those drivers looking for their first win of the year. Remember, Chris Darling got that epic win at Talladega earlier this season in that 47 truck, going sideways across the start-finish line in what was one of the best finishes I've ever seen, not only here on 3-Wide TV, but my entire sim racing career. That was a very spectacular finish, but now at least it seems like Nathan Maurer might be falling into the clutches of the number 94 of Jason Freeman, who is now, like I said, going to try and go for that third position. Looks like he's going to take him here very easily coming out of turn number 2. So move Jason Freeman, a newcomer to the league, just like you were mentioning there, Drew. Now up into third. Very impressive out of this Chevrolet Silverado.
Yeah, great performance by that 94, kind of Maryland-themed truck there. But yeah, I was just about to mention, we saw the 97 truck on pit road that last time by. We just saw a bunch of leaders, I believe, including Chris Darling and potentially... No, Mitchell Adams, I believe, stayed out. But Chris Darling definitely pitted this last time by. So we are seeing our second round of pit stops is, yes, Chris Darling, who did not get on pit road great based on relative to the trucks around him, like James Lorello and Nathan Maurer. So our second round of pit stops in full swing here on lap 71 now. Lap 72 for our leader of Mitchell Adams. Who is now coming down pit road. And luckily, it seems like Kentucky, a pretty straightforward approach here as Mitchell Adams, who is normally pretty outstanding on his pit road entry, I think lost just a little bit of time there to that 94 truck of Jason Freeman. Sorry, just it's hard to necessarily put 2 and 2 together when it comes to some of these newer drivers, just making sure you get their names correct. But Philip Scott here staying out in that 44 truck. Man, you see the pace difference between new and old tires. As, yeah, I was about to say, we got to imagine that 44 truck is going to come in anytime. Here he comes, the 44 down pit road. The 84, TJ Buck behind him, down on pit road. And I think those are going to be the last two guys. Maybe that 14 truck, there we go, staying out as long as possible here now. He is on lap 74 now, actually, as he has to be coming down here shortly, as I guess if you can make it to lap 80, that seems like an incredible stretch. But if you can make it to lap 80, that would put you in a really good position. And we're on lap 74, but not quite. The 14 not going to be able to make it that far. As he will come down on pit road. And quite frankly, if you can't make it to that threshold, there's really no point staying out this long. All you're doing is costing yourself track position, Pete.
Yeah, and speaking of track position, the 971 Nathan Maurer has leapfrogged a couple of the other trucks that he's been racing, including Mitchell Adams and Jason Freeman. So Maurer, one of the early adopters on pit road in that Simbox Chevrolet. It's looking pretty darn good for him right now. Bill Edwards, your current race leader, he's out there still yet to come down pit road. Jeff Price in the number 14 is on pit road right now, so move Maurer now up into second. We're just waiting for Edwards to make his pit stop. He's been out there now for 28 laps, so you think he might be able to go another couple of laps. Just hoping to see a yellow in that number 50. Remember, some pretty heavy damage. Meanwhile, back behind him, how about this? Mitchell Adams and the number 9 of Lorello, your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion in the 49, and your current Simbox Truck Series points leader, the number 9 of Lorello, who so far this season, Drew, has won 5 races in that 9 truck. And in fact, between these two, have won 8 of the 14 races that we have had this season. Very, very impressive, both of these drivers to get their way to victory lane many, many times this year, and looking to pick up win number 9 between them here tonight. Not sure if it would be Adams or the number 9 of Lorello who walked away with the checkered flag here tonight, or someone else. We'll have to wait and find out as we close in on the halfway mark. 120 miles will be in the books in 4 laps time. 120 miles will be left to go here in the Bluegrass 240. Let's head over to the chat. We got James Casterline in the chat. He's been here for quite some time. And James, hopefully you're having a good night. Hopefully you have a happy New Year as well. In fact, that goes out to everyone. Don't think we've really mentioned that here tonight. Drew, happy New Year. 2020 was an interesting one. 2021 has started off as an interesting one. And hopefully 2021 kind of calms down and is much better than 2020 ever was. That's the hope. Cross fingers, knock on wood, cross your toes, whatever you need to do. But that is the case. Rich Sobel also joining us in the chat saying, let's go, Josh. Rooting on Josh Sobel. Just inside the top 10 right now. Let's see if we can pick him up as the number 30 machine is continuing to show a good amount of pace here tonight, running right behind TJ Buck. Philip Scott, a couple trucks up ahead of him. Also got the number 28, Jamar Dumas, back behind in the Texaco Haviland Chevrolet. Looking down the charts here, Drew, at potential pit road speeding violations. We mentioned it last time. I think this one might have reached out and grabbed the number 51 machine. Haven't really talked about him all too much here tonight, but that's Paul Bilson in that truck. And, whoa, man, that's the 24, Ben Mashburn, mashing the outside wall right there in turn number 1 just a little bit. Bill Edwards has come down and made his pit stop to cycle things back to the 49 of Mitchell Adams. In fact, it wasn't the 49 of Mitchell Adams a little while ago because Mitchell Adams actually just got around Nathan Maurer. So things continuing to change here at Kentucky. It's been a pretty wild night here, Drew. All things considered for a 1.5-mile racetrack. And you look at the top 4 right now, separated by only 0.7 of a second. Chris Darling in the number 47, he was up there with the lead pack, definitely not having the pit cycle he wanted, as he now finds himself 4 seconds behind the race lead and falling into the clutches of the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman.
Yeah, and I think that when you lose that draft of that lead pack, right, like you see that 47's just far enough behind that 94 to where you're not picking up that draft. You're just losing time to those guys who are almost like kind of pushing each other forward, using their momentum to kind of carry each other forward. Really, anything bigger than pretty much Rockingham, Darlington, and these trucks has turned into a quasi restrictor plate track, right? Like you're not really getting the full pack racing, but the aero is having such a huge effect on these trucks in the sim, especially with these fixed setups that we are using here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. That everyone's truck's handling the same, everyone's doing the same thing. So that aero wash, that aero push, rather, right? Like as far as propelling your car forward and the car ahead of you, truck ahead of you forward, is so powerful that when you lose that, you start to really struggle. And we saw Chris Darling 4 seconds behind, 4.5 seconds behind, 4.8 seconds behind, and now 5.2 seconds behind, all because he doesn't have that help of that draft effect between he and the leaders, and that's just costing him a ton of time, as Mitchell Adams, Nathan Maurer, James Lorello, Jason Freeman, all doing a fantastic job. I got to tell you, if you told me you got to pick one of these guys to win this race, I mean, my gut would tell you James Lorello just based on what we've seen, but these guys really haven't separated themselves thus far, Peter. It's been pretty equal amongst these top 4. Can anyone outside this top 4 get up there and mount a challenge?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we've seen a lot of pace out of Mike Tellier here tonight. And, oh, man, 3 wide. How about this? Speaking of Mike Tellier, TJ Buck there in the middle. Philip Scott goes around the outside. He's able to clear him coming out of turn number 4. But we've seen a lot of pace out of Mike Tellier. We saw him, of course, start on the pole here tonight, pick up the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award. He clips the apron there. That's not going to help his cause as he gets passed there by Philip Scott and TJ Buck. But we saw Tellier get off sequence in the first caution flag that we had in the first 20 laps. We haven't seen a caution flag since the first 20 laps. We've only had one caution flag here tonight, which has been absolutely awesome with all this green flag action. So maybe if we got another caution flag where Tellier could get back on the same, essentially the same cycle as everyone else, perhaps that could play to his advantage. We've definitely seen a lot of short run pace out of that 97. So maybe if he got some back-to-back cautions, maybe he could get up there. We've seen some speed out of Chris Darling, but I'm seeing some damage on that number 47 truck, some left front damage here, Drew, which is something you rarely see on the racetrack. At least you don't see it as often as you see right side damage, because that's usually the side where the wall is, but definitely some left front damage on that Robbie Gordon inspired throwback paint scheme, and perhaps that is what has led to him now being 6 seconds back behind the race lead. In fact, we see him being challenged by the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman. This is a battle for the top 5. So that Auburn University number 4 just going around the outside, making it look, almost made it look easy there. Just kind of blowing on past the 47. And here comes Philip Scott trying to join this battle. Look at TJ Buck in the 84 also kind of charging in. Looking at tire differentials between these trucks, Philip Scott, TJ Buck, they only have 14 laps on their tires, and looks at Philip Scott, going to take it 3 wide, almost contact the 4 machine of Andrew Himmelman. What a save by that young driver in the 4. We're going to go back and catch this one here on the replay, because my oh my, that was almost game over for the number 4.
Yeah, going in, the 4, I don't think the 47 ever thought the 44 was going to be underneath him. And, I mean, as soon as all 3 of those drivers committed to where they were running on the track going into that corner, I think that it was always going to be that 4 truck that was going to suffer. You see right here, a late move from that 44 truck. The 47 kind of takes his normal entry and realizes, oh, there's a truck there. And at that point, you have to change your angle of attack to make the corner. And that just kind of threw him up into the 4 truck's path. And I gotta give huge credence to that 4 truck who did a heck of a job at Andrew Himmelman in saving that truck. I really thought we were going to see our second caution there. As soon as I saw that 47 change its angle of attack going into the corner, I figured, here we go. 4 is going to get the bad end of this deal. But he didn't. He saved that truck, able to keep going, and honestly might have lost a little track position, but no real worse for the wear, as he's able to going to be able to continue here at Kentucky Speedway and battle for this top 10. And I gotta say, he's in a better position than the guy that hit him. I think that 47 truck's really struggling, and that 4 is now able to get by that 47 as he does a pretty aggressive cut across the track. Let that 47 know, hey bud, don't hit me in the left rear going into the corner. That's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how that little bit of left side damage on the number 4 machine will work out for him. Here we go on board with the Stay Tuned Sports number 30 of Joshua Sobel. He's caught the number 47 of Darling, who's really struggling with the damage on that Toyota Tundra. And Sobel here doing a good job keeping that bright green machine nice and clean, and definitely has had some good pace as of late in that car. I know we saw him back at Twin Ring Motegi, Drew, have really a breakout race, and he's just going to drop to the inside now of that number 47 here down the backstretch, and looks like he will be picking up this spot to move him up to 8th. He got around Mike Tellier a couple laps ago. Tellier there falling into the clutches of Jamar Dumas, who's lapping the number 60 of Matt Vanderkoy, who is currently running down in the 26th position, 1 lap down. We're down to just 20 trucks on the lead lap. The last of those is Adam Dama. But good job by that number 28 machine, because he's been able to scoot away from Jeff Price in the number 14. We saw a lot of pace out of him, the Arkansas driver right there, running in 12th, right in front of Jordan Scheffler, another driver we saw inside the top 10, up around the 8th position early in the running right in front of the number 6 of Doug Milliner, who's right there behind him. And then it's a long gap back until the number 2 machine of Justin White. We have the 47 machine right here, Chris Darling, coming down pit road here, Drew. He's got all that left front damage, and really that left front damage doesn't look all too bad. It does look bad. It's crinkled up, but it's really localized. You would think that the iRacing pit crew would just be able to get the hammer out, hammer it back in, but unfortunately that's not exactly the way it works in iRacing. You see tires going on that truck. This is about 7 laps early, Drew, and looking at the pit window, I don't think he's going to be able to make it here on just one more stop. It's going to be very close. I think he's going to need a caution at some point to make this work. Now, he's getting off sequence. Maybe he thinks that's what he needs to do. We'll see what the iRacing crew was able to do with that damage. Doesn't look like a whole lot. Still a lot of left front damage for Chris Darling. That's definitely going to hurt him, and it's definitely going to hurt if he can't make it the rest of the way on only one more pit stop, like the rest of the field.
Yeah, I was just looking at him through the good old rear chase camera. You can see his left front tire in the rear chase camera through his hood. Like it is significant left front damage. And now, after that contact with the 4 of Andrew Himmelman, he's significant right front damage. So that 47, I thought was going to spin an extended period of time on pit road to get that damage fixed, just because it's not looking great for Chris right now. But he didn't. He just put it early, and I gotta say, I would have just kind of sucked it up. Chris is more or less in the chase, and I think if he finishes this race, he'll be darn near locked in. As we bring up those points now. Yeah, you see Chris Darling there in P6, 47 points ahead of Robert Dudley. If he can just not lose 20 points basically this race, he'll keep that position over Dudley. So, that's not even over Robert Dudley, so to speak. That's over 10th position. So he's in a pretty good spot. I think we're going to see darn near through 10th position locked in after this race. I would be kind of surprised to not see that, just because and if not locked in, all but locked in. Basically, a bunch of these guys are going to have to start next week if they're not locked in, and they will essentially be locked in. But we'll see, right? If Chris Darling blows a front tire and smashes the wall down, then everything can change. If there's a caution or pit cycles, everything can change. Who knows what's going to happen? I am seeing a few more guys go on pit road here. Peter Adam Dama came on pit road and almost spun it out coming onto pit road, as a matter of fact. That was a little bit hairy there for that truck. But I think we're going to start seeing pit cycles as a whole open up here, as we only have about 60 laps to go now.
Yeah, and here comes one of our top contenders. That's the number 9 of Lorello, who's coming down pit road. One of the first real drivers with a shot at the checkered flag, at least if this thing stays green, to get into his pit box. Now that's going to drag the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams down pit road. He can't stay out. Here he is. He's on pit road. Look at the number 94, Freeman. Once again, a huge gain on pit road by the number 94 of Jason Freeman. Very, very impressive for him to get once again back to the back bumper of the 49, who was the race leader. Now you see some trucks coming off pit road, other trucks coming into pit road, including the 94. Oh, that's a little bit scary. I know in iRacing you can kind of drive through trucks, but there is a kind of a statute of limitations, if you will, for driving through trucks. There is a point at which they get solid, and man, that was just a little bit too close for comfort, at least on my end. Meanwhile, back up the front, the 44 of Philip Scott continues to stay out. He has inherited the race lead over TJ Buck, Jeff Price, and Bill Edwards, who was working his way through the field. And as this cycle goes through, Drew, we're closing in on 100 laps of green flag racing here in the Bluegrass State. Very, very impressive here tonight out of the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series drivers. As always, huge field here tonight. 34 trucks took the green flag, and so much green flag racing. It has been truly an awesome race to watch, as now Philip Scott decides to peel down pit road. Let's see if we can watch what's going on the backstretch. I love the backstretch cam, Drew, and you kind of get a sense of the speed of these trucks. They're whipping their way around this racetrack here tonight. There's Peter Serto with a late lunge there on one of the trucks, and now here comes the group of trucks who will be eventually racing for the race lead when things cycle on out. Looks like Nathan Maurer might be the big loser on this round of pit stops in that 971 truck, Drew. Just kind of looking at the times, Maurer now quite a ways behind drivers like Lorello, Mitchell Adams. In fact, Mitchell Adams has fresher tires than Maurer, so Maurer really starting to fall back in that Simbox truck, which is really unfortunate. He's had a fantastic run tonight.
Yeah, it's like we mentioned earlier, I think it's his best run of the year as far as pace is concerned. He did lose probably 2 seconds on the last pit stop, but he should cycle out to 4th position here, which is not at all, bad or something to be scoffed at. As once again, a bunch of newcomers, a bunch of guys with a ton of speed, who is very likely, when pit cycles all get done, who's going to be fighting for this race lead here, Peter? Mitchell Adams, James Lorello. Nothing's changed. Bunch of new names, doesn't matter. It's going to be Mitchell Adams, James Lorello, who were battling for this race lead. Now, a second behind them, 94 of Jason Freeman. I am certainly not discounting his ability to get up there and fight for this win with the 49 and the 9 trucks. But right now, with about 55 laps to go here as they cross the start-finish line. It's looking really good for the two drivers that we have seen be so fast all year long, with a little bit of an edge to James Lorello. Mitchell Adams is going to be wanting to kind of level that out a little bit. But Bill Edwards, right now, was our race leader, who is pitting right now. We'll see what he can do. Can he cut a pit stop out of these guys? He's off strategy. He's pitting now. He had a 6-8 second lead there. What can that 50 truck do being off cycle? If he can maintain what he's doing, he might be able to cut a full stop out of this strategy, and we'll see how that plays out for him. Certainly rooting for things to kind of get mixed up every now and then here in the Simbox Truck Series, so we'll see what that 50 can do. But looking back here, that 30 of Josh Sobel, 24 of Ben Mashburn. I believe we are looking at a battle a little bit further back than I thought we would be looking at potentially. Actually, no. I take it back. Looking at a battle for 9th position as far as Josh is concerned. The 24 truck actually is a lap down in 21st. But a good run for Josh Sobel. Yeah, you mentioned that Twin Ring Motegi seems to be one of those kind of breakthrough moments for Josh as far as pace is concerned. I feel like before that 30 truck was very hit and miss as far as pace is concerned, and ever since then, he might not be a guy that's contending for race victories, as now we're looking at the 44 and the 4 truck. A whole bunch of 4s here battling for 6th position. That 30 truck has really found his groove post-Twin Ring Motegi, and another solid top 10 run for Josh Sobel and Jamar Dumas, the guy behind him. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Jamar so many times this year has had great qualifying pace and then kind of struggled in race conditions as he gets right up into the door of that 24 truck at Ben.
Man, you almost jinxed that one.
Yeah, talk about a commentator's curse. Jamar's done. He's had so much pace throughout the season, and he's just kind of struggled in race conditions. And able to clear that 24 truck as the commentator's curse doesn't strike this time, but it came very close. But I got to give that 28 truck an honorable mention, because he has done a fantastic job. Started 9th, running 9th, and is showing very, very good pace. The 5 of Ben Adams, one of those guys towards the tail end of the top 10 in points, definitely did not have a great qualifying effort as he started in 27th position, but up into 15th. This is kind of what Ben needs to do, right? This is what he needs tonight. It's probably not what he wanted. I think every guy who's not up in the top 5, not up battling for that race lead wants to be up there, but ultimately the championship's a little bit bigger than one race. And this is what Ben needs to do. A solid night, running in the top 15. As long as he finishes where he's running now, he's going to put himself in a really good position to solidify his chances of making this chase.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it best, Drew. Just, I mentioned it towards the top of the show that the number 5 of Adams does a fantastic job of getting the most that he can get out of any given race. And like you mentioned, started back in 27th. Now he's running in 15th. That's 12 positions. I'm looking at the leaderboard right now. He is the biggest mover. Himself and Jason Gracias both have picked up 12 positions from where they started the race. Like you said, might not be exactly where he wants to be. I'm sure he wants to be up there inside the top 10. He's been fighting with some left rear damage on that Lynchburg T-shirt company Chevrolet all night long. But all things considered, with the number 15 really struggling here tonight of Robert Dudley, he's 3 laps down in that 15 truck. The number 5 is going to be walking away with this thing with a pretty good advantage over 11th place in points. In fact, he's actually going to be running down the number 47, and here comes the 47. Speaking of Chris Darling, he's going to have to come down pit road. He was early on pit road last time, and he's going to come down here with 48 laps to go. And with 30 laps in a fuel tank, Drew, you would think this is really going south quickly for the Talladega winner, Chris Darling. Tough break for him. He will come to his pit crew, and they will go to work on that truck. Meanwhile, up at the front, Mitchell Adams in that number 49 machine has gotten himself up to a 0.6 of a second lead over James Lorello. Lorello battling with Jason Freeman. And looking at the tire situation amongst the top three, you'll see that at the top of the screen as well. So you can find out when your favorite driver was last on pit road. Mitchell Adams this time by 14 laps on his tires. James Lorello 15 laps. And Jason Freeman 14 laps as well. So Adams and Freeman are on the same tire strategy, the same number of laps on their tires. Lorello, 1 lap older tires on that truck. Maurer, 14 laps on his tires, so he's in the same boat as Adams and Freeman. Philip Scott in the number 44. He's running in 5th. Now, he's 10 seconds behind the race lead. That's how much this race has fanned out here. But he is on 2-lap fresher tires than the top few of Adams, Freeman, and Maurer. So good on them to have some slightly better tires, put themselves in a little bit of a different boat. Meanwhile, Tellier and Himmelman battling for position a little bit further back. There they are. We've seen this battle before. This is, I think, part 3 of the battle between Himmelman and Tellier. And it looks like Himmelman, once again, going to be able to take away the position. And that is just due to the fact that Himmelman does have 1 lap fresher tires in the number 97 Mobile. So they will continue to fight for that spot just outside the top 5. Now it looks like Tellier has the preferred groove, but look at Robert Dudley down there, 3 laps down in the number 15 machine, making things a little bit difficult. We've seen that not work here tonight. I know Andrew Himmelman there, I'm sure he was puckering a little bit, if you will, Drew, because he's been on the top side of 3 wide in turn number 1 and 2, and that almost ended in tears the last time.
Yeah, 3 wide here at Kentucky Speedway is a challenge, to say the least. It's certainly getting down to crunch time, and the guy that's ahead of him, Mike Tellier, has had an exceptional amount of short run pace, but on these longer runs, that 97 has definitely struggled to keep the tires under that truck, as Andrew Himmelman now making a move for that 6th position. I think this is a really solid run for Drew, the fellow Drew in that Ford truck. He has, been kind of hit and miss this year in pace, and has had some kind of, self-inflicted mistakes, and definitely been wrong place, wrong time as well. But a really good run tonight, and you mentioned that computer upgrade that I saw as well, that was mentioned there in the Discord, and that necessarily. I'm sorry. We'll get to what's going on. I just want to talk about what a computer upgrade can mean to somebody. It's not going to make you talented, right? Like it's not going to give you pace when you didn't have it, but it certainly can help you going from a computer that is kind of underpowered for iRacing to one that can really, really run the game to its kind of clearest, like 1080p, 60 frames capabilities. It can really just help you understand what the truck and the vehicle wants out of it. As looking back up front, 94 Jason Freeman got by James Lorello here into 2nd position, as Mitchell Adams is kind of extending that race lead here, Peter, and we're closing in on our final pit stops, I believe. This is looking really good for Mitchell Adams, Jason Freeman, not so good for James Lorello.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see if Freeman now can run down the 49 of Mitchell Adams. 0.6 of a second between them. We've seen that kind of a gap between them over the last, 10, 15 laps or so. But last time by, look at that. Freeman, 0.2 of a second faster than your race leader, the 49 of Adams. If he can keep that up, he will take the race lead here before their final pit stop, which will be coming in about 9 laps from now. We expect them to go about 30 laps on a tank of fuel. We have seen, I think, a maximum of 32 laps tonight. I think that was out of Jeff Price in the number 14 truck. There is the 50 of Bill Edwards. Now, he is on a different strategy, and, man, getting pushed right down there below that yellow line. Now, the 50 of Edwards, he wants to get himself back on the lead lap. He is the first truck 1 lap down. Of course, he would pick up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award if a caution flag was to fly right now. But as you can see, Freeman and Adams, another 0.2 of a second that time by Freeman, and he's still battling the number 50 of Edwards. So if you think that the 50 of Edwards wasn't fighting the 94 Freeman. Man, Drew, I would think that Freeman would be able to catch Adams and blow on by him.
Yeah. Oh, the 50 truck, man. It can be really hard to not just continue to stick your nose in when you got it right there. But yeah, that 50 truck, it's never fun when you're a guy in second position running down Mitchell Adams, and then basically a guy not competing for the race win directly is up there running you that hard and right on your tailgate. Here is Peter Certo in that 2 truck. They're battling here for basically the 15th position. Looking at these times last time by Justin White. Making sure I'm reading this correctly. Is that a 0.6 for White, Peter?
32.823 for Justin White to Certo's 32.873. So these trucks running very similar lap times. The reason I bring this up and I highlight this is if the number 50 can get his lap back, this would actually be the battle for the Brookstone Lucky Dog Award. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on in front of him as well as what's going on back there. Looks like still the 50 of Edwards still hounding, causing havoc for that number 94 machine. And Drew, man, if the number 50's faster, if I'm Jason Freeman at this point, man, I'm saying, all right, go take it. I'm not going to continue to fight you for this position, because if you can run down the number 49 of Adams, well, maybe he can do what? Maybe he can do what he's doing to you, but to Adams instead of you. But they're continuing to race side by side, and now, you can see he's now about half a second back when he closed right up to the rear tailgate of the number 49 machine. So kind of an interesting thing by Freeman to race the 50 as hard as he is, considering the 50's a lap down and on fresher tires. Now the 50, now there's a little bit of a hip check, and that's another thing that can go wrong, is a little bit of impatience can start to creep in, because Freeman was racing him so hard. He is a lap down, and now Freeman got a little bit of a hip check. He gets knocked up out of the groove. That's going to allow Lorello by. So Freeman, who was about 0.3 of a second back, maybe as soon as 4 laps ago, is now 1.5 or so seconds behind the race lead, and now we're only 3 laps away from what will presumably be the final pit stop of the night.
Yeah, and the 50 truck has his certain strategy, and he's got to make it work. And as you see the 5 now cruising on by, and guys are running their race, and ultimately this didn't do anything for that 94 except cost himself track position. So maybe that's one of those deals where you're on the lead lap, all that good stuff. Just let a guy by, right? Like it's only costing yourself time. It's not helping you. So do what you got to do to get this race win. Don't worry about the short term. Is we are having guys come down pit road here, Peter. I know the 9 truck came down pit road. I'm not sure which else of our leaders are on pit road as well. I believe, yes, our leader came down as well, the 49 of Mitchell Adams.
Jason Freeman is going to stay out in that number 94 truck. We got a quick peek there of Joshua Sobel in the number 30. He now has some right front damage that I saw on that Stay Tuned Sports Toyota Tundra. And we have seen how damaging right front damage can be here on a couple of cars tonight. Drew Himmelman in the number 4. He's coming down to his pit crew. There he is. So we have now the top 3 trucks that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. They have yet to come down pit road. Same thing with Bill Edwards, but he's on that different strategy. But now the big question is going to be Mitchell Adams, Lorello. Which ones of those is going to come out first? We got our answer. It's Lorello in the number 9 machine. Stellar pit stop by his S2R crew has got him out front of Mitchell Adams. But now we have to find out about Jason Freeman. We've seen him be so aggressive getting to pit road here tonight. Can he get out in front of those 2 trucks? He also is going to have the benefit of 1 lap fresher tires, but he's going to have to run down those trucks, I would think, because he does have the fact that he stayed out 1 extra lap, but he's going to have fresher tires. We're going to have to wait and see how this all pans out here on 3Y TV. You see the number 9 machine of Lorello. He's coming around the corner. There you see the number 94 down there on the inside groove. When will the number 9 of Lorello? There he is. Lorello flashes on by, but good news for Jason Freeman. He's got out in front of the number 94 of number 49 of Mitchell Adams. So now it's going to be Freeman and Lorello. And remember, Freeman has that 1 lap fresher tire advantage, which we have seen here tonight, Drew, is actually a pretty big deal.
It certainly is. The 94 has done a great job getting on and off pit road. The 49 not quite as good of a job as we know. We've talked to Mitchell before, and he really, really prides himself on his ability to get on and off pit road in a very efficient manner. Didn't really work that time, right? Not Kyle Busch-like in his temperament, but certainly Kyle Busch-like in his ability typically to get on and off pit road. But that doesn't always work the way you want to. Is in that corner as well. His entry and exit was kind of compromised by that 98/not 98 of Jason Gracias. But up front, I mean, now for truck battle. By the way, Nathan Maurer, back in this battle. That last truck on your screen. You know, we talked about him fading a little bit. Well, guess what? 971's back. He's right there. He is hounding Mitchell Adams for that 3rd position, which could absolutely derail that 49's ability to get up there and compete with the 9 and the 94. By the way, none of these guys are our leader right now. It's a 50 truck of Bill Edwards. He's our leader, who started 14th, currently running 1st, as leaders typically do, here with just 27 laps to go. Man, this race has really, really flown by. It's I kind of just looked up and was like, oh yeah, there's only 27 to go. This is really, really crunch time for these drivers out here, as Mitchell Adams is kind of losing touch with these front 2 of Jason Freeman and James Lorello, and that 94 truck really establishing himself as one of these guys that I think we're going to have to be on a lookout for in the future, especially at these familiar tracks. Who knows what he can do at some of these shorter tracks? You would know better than I, Peter, as you have done more stuff for TNR than I have. But we'll see. Jason Freeman certainly establishing himself as one of these guys that we're going to have to watch for throughout these races. Upstarting the other newcomer in Mike Tellier, who is running, in a respectable 7th, but based on his early race pace now, 6th position as he has overtaken Andrew Himmelman. But given his early race pace, we're looking for a little bit more out of that 97 truck, but a solid top 10, nothing to scoff at. But up here out front, man, this 94 truck seems to really have the pace, as Nathan Maurer has made his way by Mitchell Adams.
Yeah, great job by Nathan Maurer. I mean, we were writing him off, Drew, in that 971 truck. You mentioned it. He has done a stellar job to get back with the front 3. And that Simbox Chevrolet Silverado showing some late race pace. And for all the people wondering if he pitted early, what type of tires does he have? He pitted on the same lap with Lorello and Adams. So that 971 is on the same, strategy as James Lorello, who is your race leader. He does have 1 lap older tires than Jason Freeman, who's trying to run down the number 9 of Lorello. Catching him is one thing, passing him is another. But you have to think, Drew, that Freeman here is in a great position. He's got those slightly fresher tires. He can be a little bit patient. He might be able to save his tires just a little bit behind that number 9 machine and maybe make that late race lunge. Granted, the only thing that could throw things into the mix is if there is a late race caution, as you see Chris Darling in the 47 machine peel out onto the racetrack. He's definitely not had the best night here after picking up some mid-race damage. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, Derek Cook in the chat says, this looks like a great place to race. And I'll tell you what, Derek, if you're still with us in the chat, and hopefully you are here on 3Y TV, look at tonight's race summary. 1 caution. And that 1 caution, Drew, it was kind of a fluke. The number 50 might have had some type of hardware issue. Not sure what, but ended up just kind of randomly crashing into the inside wall of the racetrack. But beyond that, 1 little hiccup, it has been green flag. 34 trucks here tonight started this race, and only 1 caution here through the first 140 40 laps, as we now are going to just have 20 more laps to go. What a stellar race it has been. There it goes, the number 12 machine going up the racetrack. Gerald Baker third, running in 25th position, a couple of laps down now. So it's been a great race. There's been a lot of stellar racing here tonight. I think everyone in the chat, I'm curious to know. I don't think I have seen racing this good all season long. I think the Simbox Truck Series is just getting better and better. There's a lot of races, and Drew, I know you've mentioned this to me before, but there have been a lot of races where we said, you know what, I don't know if that racetrack is going to put on the best show for the fans. And here tonight, Kentucky, that was me coming into tonight. I wasn't thinking this race was going to be stellar, and here we are, 19 laps to go. We have 4 trucks inside 2.5 seconds. We've seen 3 wide, we've seen 2 wide, we've seen stellar racing. And now my question for the chat is, out of 10, how would you rate this race here tonight? And if you're watching this race on demand, let's say, you know, you're watching this after the fact, I'm curious to know what you think of this race. This, in my opinion, has been one of the best races of the year, and we have just 2 more races until the Simbox Chase.
I mean, I think NASCAR's probably, if they're watching, I mean, I hope they are, they're probably pretty jealous of this, because I really don't think a lot of real-life stuff has been able to match what NSRA, specifically the Simbox Truck Series, has been able to put on there as far as an on-track product. There's no real gimmicks, there's no stages, there's no like kind of stuff that isn't racing involved in this. It's just guys going out there giving it their all, and more often than not, it's an exceptional product to watch. So a huge credit, a huge shout out to these guys, the NSRA, Simbox Truck Series participants, admins, the guys that work behind the scenes to make this thing happen. Because I gotta say, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's a lot of fun to talk about. Like this is a heck of a way to spend a Friday night, especially given the circumstances of the world. There could be a lot worse ways to spend my Friday nights than talking about some fantastic racing, as we are seeing Jason Freeman and James Lorello race lap after lap after lap. That 94 looking for a weakness in James Lorello's armor that is going to be hard to find. But what a product these guys put on week in, week out, regardless of track. Road course, short tracks, super speedways, intermediates, doesn't matter. These guys put on a heck of a show, and it's been a ton of fun to do all year and to keep doing for the next few months. As looking back here, the 13, the 14 truck racing for 7th position, Jordan Scheffler, Jeff Price battling here. These guys could get their way up potentially, optimistically up into the top 5, but racing here for 7th. You want to get every position that you can in this race. 15 to go. You're not going to be cutting anybody any slack, regardless if it's for 3rd, 4th, or 11th. Like these guys are going to be driving their tails off. As Mitchell Adams is Mitchell Adams down in 14th position. I'm sorry, did I miss something, Peter, as to why he fell back this far?
Your question is as good as mine. He had to pit 3.5 laps ago, an unscheduled pit stop on the number 49 of Mitchell Adams. Only thing I can think of, Drew, is he did not put enough fuel in that Chevrolet Silverado to make it to the finish of the race. He came down pit road. Appears he might have taken 2 tires, 2 right side tires on that truck, I should say. But he pitted 4 laps ago now. Like I said, the only thing I can think of is the team did not get that truck full of fuel. And for a driver who has led 58 laps here tonight, no driver has led as many laps as that 49 machine. He's locked at the most laps led. He's going to have a rough finish. Your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion. Now that has elevated several drivers up a spot, like Jeff Price, who Jeff Price there in the number 14 looks like he's got his way around the number 4 machine of Andrew Himmelman. Himmelman here sliding back just a little bit in the late stages. Jeff Price surging up through the field now up to 6th. I think that's the highest he's been at least since the first 30 laps or so in tonight's race. So a good job by Jeff to put things together right there at the end. Josh Sobel also, he's struggling with that right side damage that he has on that Toyota Tundra almost about to fall a lap down. He's the last truck on the lead lap. That's right. We only have 9 trucks on the lead lap. That's what 130 laps of green flag running will do for you. Meanwhile, up at the front, we're going to have 10 laps to go. 15 miles here at Kentucky Speedway this time by, and Lorello continues to lead over Jason Freeman.
Yeah, but Freeman is not relinquishing this. I mean, James Lorello's skill has really been on display here tonight. It might not look like a lot to the viewers. It might just look like, yeah, these guys are running nose to tail. But this 9 is so consistent. He doesn't make a mistake. He doesn't give the opportunity to the 94 to take advantage of probably what appears to be just a little bit of pace superiority in that 94 truck. He just seems to be a little bit quicker, but can't do anything with it. As TJ Buck here running, looking through the live timing and scoring. I think it just flashed up, but I might have missed it. Did TJ Buck go down to 22nd? Did he pit there, Peter?
Yeah, he just came off pit road. So another of the drivers who just didn't get enough fuel in it. We knew it was going to be tight. We had man, that was the number 94 machine hitting the wall. We'll go back and catch a replay of that one, but it did seem like Jason Freeman there might have caught the wall just a little bit down the backstretch, which hopefully doesn't give him any right side damage. You see him getting around Adam Dama there in that number 82 truck, and yeah, just kind of turned up into the wall there on the backstretch. Don't see all too much damage on that truck. We'll go back live and see if we can get a little bit of a look. Oh yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a crinkle in that right side. You kind of see it right there at the wheel arch. Hopefully that isn't going to affect his charge for the race lead. Yeah, you can see it right there. Here comes TJ Buck on those fresher tires. Also, the number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams right behind him. And now Freeman here kind of thinking, you know what, let me let these trucks on by. They're on fresher tires. Maybe they can run down Lorello, kind of give him a tough time of things. We saw that earlier not work out for Freeman, but now Freeman starting to fall back just a little bit. Something's happened to Nathan Maurer as well. Maurer, remember, he was with this lead pack. Is he possibly on the cusp of running out of fuel? He might be saving fuel to make it to the end of the race because he is now 15 seconds behind the race lead. Last time by, Nathan Maurer was on pace with your race leaders, but he's definitely lost a ton of time there, Drew. Not sure when he lost all that ground. Over the last, 10 laps or so, he's been averaging about 0.8 of a second slower than your leaders. That time by, Nathan Maurer well off the pace of your leaders, 0.6 of a second off the pace of Lorello and Freeman. So definitely Maurer here trying to save fuel, trying to stretch it. Now here's the interesting thing, Drew. Maurer pitted at the same time Lorello pitted. Are we going to see Lorello with some fuel issues? This is going to be tight, possibly, whether or not that number 9 can make it to the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, the 971 he ran a couple 34-second lap times. So I think he's just been looking at the gap between he and Mike Tellier, and it's just been, making sure he can, finishing third, a second behind the race leader, or 20 seconds behind the race leader, still third for that 971 truck, right? So good on him for kind of having that situational awareness to ensure that he's saving as much fuel as he can. As here, we have 4 laps to go. I mean, if you haven't saved it at this point, you're probably not going to save it. So maybe that 971 realized, hey, I don't think I have the fuel, and he's taken that gap that he has as far as race pace is concerned. He lost another 2 seconds that last time by. Went from 16 to 18 and a half seconds back to James Lorello to save that amount of fuel that he thinks he's going to need to make it to the end. Because I don't know. It certainly would have me worried for that 9 truck, given that I don't know more than the viewers know, right? I don't know more than the people who are watching this broadcast know about the fuel situation for the 9 truck. I think he can make it. Based on his driving, I think he can make it. But ultimately, I think James knows that he has to beat that 94 truck. I think a race win means more to that 9 truck than finishing second versus second into 34th, right? Like James is already locked into the chase. That win means a lot. Finishing second to way back probably doesn't mean nearly as much as putting it all out there for that race win given his situation in the championship. He knows where he's going to be. That 94 truck, however, I think, I say however, probably in a similar boat. He's not going to make the chase. This is his first start. He's out there trying to win this races. Man, you can see them kind of doing different things, trying to save a bunch of gas. But here we are on the white flag, Peter. Who's going to make it back to the start-finish line?
Yeah, it's I think a question on whether or not that number 9 machine has enough fuel. Is he out of fuel? Is he out of fuel? I don't know, but just like that, the number 94 Freeman's going to flash on by and going to get up to the lead in the Mason-Dixon Cornhole Chevrolet. The number 9 of Lorello, slow on the backstretch. He's well slow. And it looks like Jason Freeman in his first start isn't going to run out of gas in the Bluegrass State. Is he now out of gas? He might be coasting his way to the start-finish line. I don't know, but Freeman's going to go to victory lane at Kansas. What a finish.
What a deal. I do. I think he ran out of fuel coming out of 4. It reminds me of a race we had at Pocono here not too many years ago there, Peter, as that 9 of Lorello's trying to coast to the start-finish line. But Nathan Maurer, I think he's out of fuel, but he's going to take second. And then the 97 of Montelier struggles throughout the race. He's going to finish third. Jeff Price is going to finish fourth. Himmelman is going to get his top 5. Josh Sobel 6th. Schepler 7th. Mitchell Adams 8th. James Lorello, I don't think he just crossed the start-finish line. He'll still maintain that top 10. He certainly tried, but James Lorello lost 8 positions there on that last lap. But a heck of a job by that 94, who certainly is out of gas there on this post-checkered flag cool-down lap, Pete.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If Jason Freeman wants to do burnouts, well, tough luck. I don't think he has a drop of fuel left in the tank. But wow, what a finish. JT in the chat saying this has to be the best race of the season. And man, I gotta say, it has been a long time since I saw a bunch of cars run out of fuel on the last lap like we did here tonight. But Jason Freeman called it right. 30 laps is what I think he went right there at the end of the race, Drew. We kind of said that was right on the edge. We said we'd seen some drivers make it maybe 31. I think we saw one driver make it 32, but that was with a little bit of aid from that one and only caution flag that we had here tonight. It was tight, and unfortunately for some drivers like Lorello, 1 lap too much. That was a stellar run, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to talk to Jason Freeman, Nathan Maurer, and Mike Tellier. Those 3 drivers, none of those drivers were even in the running for the Simbox chase. And we're going to get to talk to him right here on 3 Wide TV. Jason Freeman goes to victory lane. We'll be right back for some post-race interviews. You're not going to want to miss them because they're going to be awesome. All right, folks. Thank you for holding on while we were away. We had to catch our breath after that one. That one I don't think I have seen a finish here on 3 Wide TV quite like that one ever. And it's been a long time since I've seen something like that in iRacing. And luckily, we were able to bring it to you right here on 3Wide TV. Let's catch up with tonight's third place finisher, the man who started on the pole, won that Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award, Mike Floppy Tellier, joining us right here alongside me in the 3Wide TV booth. Mike, what a night for you in that 97 truck. It didn't seem like it was going right for you there in the middle portion of the race. It seemed like that two-tire strategy that you played on lap number 12 or so kind of come back to bite you, because it never seemed like you could get back on the same strategy as everyone else. But it all works out for you. Third place finish here tonight. Tell us about your run.
I swear I was riding a roller coaster. I'd be up near the front. I'd be back out of the side the top 10. I'd be up near the front. I'd be outside the top 10. I'm just glad that at the end of the ride, I was near the front.
Yeah, we saw a lot of drivers run out of fuel. We saw a lot of drivers saving fuel right there at the end of the race. And, looking down at my screen, you pitted with 31 laps to go, like Nathan Maurer, like the number 9 of James Lorello. We saw them run out of fuel. How are you on fuel? When did you start to realize there might be a fuel issue?
Lap 12, when everyone took 4 tires and it went green from there. No, at the last pit stop, I started saving as soon as I got off pit road. Andrew Himmelman let me by, and he was saving more than I was, and I knew that if I could consistently hold lap times at what I was running, I could make it. And I think I finished the race with 0.02 gallons left, so I sputtered as I hit the line.
I'll tell you what, it was a stellar finish here tonight, and you definitely had a lot of pace tonight. We've seen that out of you in the Total Nonstop Racing League. We saw that out of you in the NSRA All-Star race that was right here on 3Wide TV at the Bristol Motor Speedway in these trucks. But here tonight, definitely a very different feel. Of course, a 1.5 mile racetrack. And how cool is it to jump into a league like this? I know you're not Jason Freeman, who's 1 for 1 now in, you kind of were 1 for 1 because you won that All-Star race. But now, I guess 1 for 2, but 2 for 2 in podiums. How cool is it to come over here and kind of hit the ground running?
Very cool. I've been watching these guys race, like your broadcasts, for a long time now, and I really wanted to get in and race with these guys. And finally they let me in, and Bill was nice enough to be my driver sponsor and hooked me up with a truck for tonight. And we were good. I had some strategy talk before the race and knew that saving those tires in turn 3 was key. And I'm just glad, like I said, it all at the end of the ride of this roller coaster, I was up near the front of the race.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic run for you here tonight, and hopefully we can have you back next week for more action here in the National Sim Racing Series as we go to North Wilkesboro. What are your thoughts about North Wilkesboro? Will we see you there?
Oh yeah, I'll be here every Friday as long as they keep letting me race. I love short track racing. I really enjoyed North Wilkesboro. I'm excited for it. Not gonna lie.
All right, very awesome to hear that. And before we let you go, any shout-outs for anyone back at home?
The TNR guys, Garrett Gleason, my kids, they're upstairs sleeping, and that's about it. Like I said, Bill, I guess, at Syndicate Racing, they're giving me a chance tonight to run in their truck. It was a good race.
All right, well, Mike Floppy Tellier coming home in third place here tonight. Best of luck next week at North Wilkesboro, and of course, Total Nonstop Racing League also starting up on Monday night, so hopefully we see you then as well, Mike. But until we see you again here on 3Wide TV in the 3Wide TV booth, best of luck, bud.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our third place finisher here tonight and your Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner, Mike Floppy Tellier. And I believe Drew Eisman is caught up with second place finisher Nathan Maurer.
Hey, Nathan, Drew Eisman up here in the 3Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
I got you up there, bud.
Well, Nathan, it's been an up and down season for you thus far in the Simbox Truck Series. Give us a little rundown of your race tonight.
Well, it started off good. Great racing up front there. Sucks that Chris, I guess he kind of took himself out entering pit road. I thought I was going to get in that, and they kind of just parted like the seas there. And yeah, I felt like me and the 94 had the best long rung trucks tonight. I noticed towards the last 10 laps on a run, he had the edge on me a little bit tonight though. But he between me and him, we had the fastest long run trucks I felt like, and I had a feeling it was going to come down to me and him. But I waited 1 lap longer to pit compared to some of the guys up front, and just couldn't overcome that couple second difference just between pitting on one different lap.
Yeah, and we saw that, and then we also saw you really take advantage of the difference in time between you and Mike Taylor behind you. Were you just trying to save as much fuel as you could to ensure that you would at least secure that at the time was third position, ended up being second?
Yeah, I happened to look at my relatives, and I seen that I think it was Mike Taylor. He was like 18 seconds behind me, and Mitchell Adams pitted. I was like, oh, this is should be a little bit easier now. So I just kept saving till he was 2.5 seconds behind me, and I ran out there on the last. I ran out in the last lap, right at the finish line there.
And this year you've really had a really feast or famine season. Third place at Richmond, fourth Iowa, and Daytona, and then a couple top 10 sprinkled in there as well. But what's kind of been the story of your season thus far? Like why have you had such incredible pace at places like Richmond and tonight at Nashville, and then maybe not had the pace at some of these other tracks? Kind of give us a rundown of what's happened thus far for you.
Yeah, I don't usually just not good to super speedways. Remember David Reagan won there too. Just never get the luck there at them big racetracks. I always seem to come out on top at the tracks where kind of takes a little bit more skill than just flat footing the whole way around. I love Kentucky. It's all about that turn 3 and 4. A lot of people seem to overdrive it. Less is more there, Kentucky. But yeah, I just couldn't commit to the whole season this year. That's why I have no chance at the playoffs. But I'm here to play some spoiler for the next couple weeks. I won't back down. I don't care if it comes down to the final 4 of the last race. If I'm up there battling with them, I ain't backing out. That's not how I am. But yeah, good luck to everybody that's going to be making the playoffs.
Absolutely, and we still have one more race before the playoffs. But before we get to what next week will bring, how was the truck driving out there tonight? Was it loose? Was it tight? We saw Mike Taylor take right sides early, which led us to believe that you guys were probably experiencing some tight conditions out there. How was the truck?
Oh, it was well. I love the trucks. I like how tight they are because it's all. I don't know. I just like driving the trucks. Very tight. It's kind of all about that throttle and the brake. You had to have that brake bias set just right to get your center of the turn just right. But yeah, definitely tight. I did not try taking 2 tires at all. I wanted to, but I didn't know how that would go in the middle of 1 and 2. Because in practice, some people were getting loose in the middle of 1 and 2. But then in the race, like that showed no signs of being loose. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. But yeah, great tight racing all around though, whole race. I haven't been here in a couple weeks, and I've seen a lot of new names in here I've never seen before, and they did pretty good, especially that new guy Jason, number 94. I was kind of glad to see somebody else up front other than just James and Mitchell every week.
Yeah, we were kind of mentioning how these new guys, a bunch of them just managed to instantly challenge those two that have been up front so many times this year. But next week we have North Wilkesboro. Do you think you're going to make it out? And if you are, what are you looking forward to? Is that a track you love, a track you hate? What are your thoughts?
Short tracks. I love the short tracks. When Chris had the 87 league, with the 87 cars, me and Doug Milliner went at it like the whole race. It was just fun racing. I hope it's just as good here in the trucks next Friday. Yeah, I plan on making it. I love short track racing. They're my favorite thing.
Yeah, well, we're excited to watch, especially based on what we've seen tonight, and quite frankly, every race thus far in the 2020-2021 Simbox Truck Series. Congratulations on your second place finish. A heck of a run tonight. Incredible pace throughout the night, Nathan. But before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, first and foremost, sponsoring some of my truck Simbox. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Doug Neal, driver of the 77 truck. Best iRacing buddy. We help each other out. He helps me out. build some badass button boxes too. So if you guys need a button box, head on over to Simbox PC on Facebook. Get yourself a button box. Second goes to my dad. He's always watching. Chris Darling too for putting great. The racing seems like it's really cleaned up in here since the first couple weeks. And my best friend Tyler always watches. He's got the fresh cut mullet today, so bringing back the mullet.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
Have a good night, guys. Hope to see you next week.
All right. Well, that, man, as my voice decides to just completely go away, that's going to do it for our second place interview. Nathan Maurer here tonight. Fantastic job. I think that's the highest he's finished all year in the series. Definitely showing us how it's done here tonight. But speaking of showing us how it's done, time to talk to tonight's race winner, the number 94 machine of Jason Freeman. Jason, Peter Short up here in 3Y TV booth. You only led 4 laps here tonight, but you led the most important one right there at the end. The number 9 machine, Lorello, running out of fuel, coming out of turn number 2. What was going through your head at that point?
Yeah, I was pretty excited for that, to see that there. I thought that on that last pit stop, I thought they all pitted. I was trying to do some fuel calculations, but I thought they all pitted a lap too early, but I wasn't 100% sure. But as we've seen there at the end, that was the case.
Well, definitely you pitted at the right time versus everyone else. Waiting that extra lap paid dividends up at the end. How frustrating was it to get to the back bumper of Lorello? It just seemed like you were trying to get past them a couple of times. You just couldn't quite get around him in that situation. How frustrating was that, and how relieving was it when you saw him kind of sputter there on the backstretch?
Yeah, I got there to him, and I was just trying to, if I had the opportunity, I was going to take it, but if not, I wasn't going to push it because, like I said, I was 99% sure those guys weren't going to make it. And then one of my teammates, Jason Gracias, asked me how much fuel I had left, and I went to check, and I scraped the wall heading into 3 and actually killed the nose a little bit. I didn't hit it hard, but it just went and turned right after that. So if they would have been good on fuel, there's no way I would have got back to him. But luckily, put all 4 quarters together and worked out in the end.
Yeah, you definitely did. And I got to say, all in all, fantastic race here tonight. I mentioned it there towards the end of the race that I couldn't think of another race as good as this one all season in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. And it's really cool when you come across the start-finish line and you win one of these epic races. I mean, it really was. It was a slugfest. Only one caution here tonight, 240 miles. Just a stellar run, not only by you. I got to give a shout out to every other truck, all other 33 trucks here tonight. Put on a stellar show for the fans. And Jason, you're able to walk away with it. One race, one win here in the Simbox Truck Series. Really, really cool. But of course, we shift gears from 1.5 miles. We go to the short track. And I've seen you on those short tracks in the Total Nonstop Racing League. We go to North Wilkesboro next week. What are your thoughts of going to North Wilkesboro in these trucks?
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. I've only ran North Wilkesboro a few times, but it's a fun little track. I'm not super great there, but I do like short tracks and I enjoy them. So I think it should be a really exciting race.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. After this one, which this race, 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Stellar race here tonight. I'm really looking forward to next week. And of course, that will be the cutoff race for the Simbox Chase. Of course, you're not in it. This being your first race of the season. But hopefully we can have you stick around here in the Simbox Truck Series for quite some time, Jason, because it seems like you're going to fit in well. It's a great group of Truck Series drivers. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to become a part of it, hit up the link. There's a link in the description you can click on to find out a little bit more about the National Sim Racing Association. But Jason, I know you have people to shout out. You got Mason Dixon Cornhole on the hood of that number 94 machine, as always, here on 3Y TV. So let's hear those shout outs.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I got to thank Steven Doziak. He runs in here, and he was my sponsor for this race. So the way that worked out, that if another driver take responsibility for your actions, I guess, if they're going to sponsor you. So that allowed me to come over here and race tonight. So this wouldn't have been possible without him. Mason Dixon Cornhole in the car. I play a lot of cornhole. That's my cornhole group that we play locally with here and do some weekly random draws. But Yeah, I usually play a lot of cornhole on Friday nights too, actually, and that's why I'm excited to get in this league. My wife and I actually had the birth of a child 2 weeks ago, so um, I'll be spending some more time at home. So it's nice to be able to race here on Friday nights. So I got to thank her for letting me jump on here tonight, but probably won't be able to spend the time on here that I used to spend on here. But yeah, and thank Chris Darling for allowing me in and to run this tonight.
Yeah, definitely awesome to have you on board. Big shout out to Doziak, like you mentioned, for sponsoring drivers. That's actually a new thing to National Sim Racing Association, is that you can sponsor a driver. If you want a driver to race with you in the league, you can say, you know what, this person meets the quality that this league is looking for. And Doziak stuck his leg out there and said, you know what, Freeman does. And so that's why you're here tonight, and you're walking away with the win. Stellar run. Fantastic job, and hope to see you again next week, Jason.
Yep, thank you very much.
All right, well, that is going to do it for your post-race interviews. Now, bear with us a little bit here on 3Y TV. This is usually the moment in time where we go through the final race results. I will say that our software that does the graphics there at the end of the race just decided to go poof. It crashed, so we will show the race results as the software has them after I rebooted it, but sometimes it gets a little bit shuffled up because it was post-race and cars weren't actively running out there on the racetrack. So hopefully we can bring it up. But Drew, I know you have access to the iRacing final race results. So read through the iRacing results, read through all 34 trucks, and I'll show the race results on the screen. And if they don't line up, folks, trust Drew, because iRacing will be right. The software will be wrong, but maybe, cross fingers, in a perfect world, they'll line up. So we'll do that. We'll go through the final race results in tonight's epic 240-mile Bluegrass race here in Kentucky Speedway.
You just heard from him, Jason Freeman, our race winner. Fantastic job. First race. He did one better on Jamie McMurray and Davey Allison, getting his first race victory in his first start here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. Nathan Maurer with a season best finish in that 971 truck, finishing second. Mike Tellier, another debutante in the Simbox Truck Series. He will finish third. Jeff Price finishes fourth. Andrew Himmelman, a fantastic run, bringing that Ford truck home in fifth position. Josh Sobel, another great run as he kind of continues his mid-season / later part of the season kind of resurgence in that 30 truck. He'll finish sixth. Jordan Shepler will finish in seventh. Mitchell Adams, kind of a nice recovery given his late race kind of situation. He will finish eighth. James Lorello runs out of fuel, so quick, for so long in this race. And that 9 truck will ultimately bring it home in 9th position. Philip Scott will round out your top 10, who was, by the way, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Philip Scott will... Actually, I take that back. James Rillo finished 9th. Philip Scott will round out our top 10 as the last driver on the lead lap. Doug Milner will bring it home in 11th. Bill Edwards, his alternative strategy kind of paid off, kind of didn't. He'll finish in 12th. Justin White will finish in 13th. Jamar Dumas started 9th, finished 14th. Overall, I think this is the most complete race that 28 truck has been able to put together here in the Simbox Truck Series. He continues to improve his race pace. Peter Certo will finish in 15th, and TJ Buck will finish 16th. A bit of a disappointing night for that 84 truck given his pace earlier on in the race. The 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. kind of continues his kind of quiet good nights that he continues to have. He will finish in 17th. Ben Adams finishes in 18th, one of those guys at the very tail end of the top 10. That's about where he needed to finish. I think he's going to be in a very good position at next week's race at North Wilkesboro. Chris Darling had that those issues, multiple issues, getting that right front damage, getting that left front damage, that drama with that Ford truck of Andrew Himmelman, which I kind of failed to mention. Andrew Himmelman almost was our second caution of the race when that 47 truck got into his left rear and did a fantastic job saving that truck. Ultimately, that will kind of condemn Chris Darling to finishing in 19th position. Barry Knapp, a solid, quiet top 20 run in that 42 truck. Nicholas Bradley started 34th, will finish 21st. Ben Mashburn, not really the night that he was looking for. Started 25th, will finish 22nd. Jason Gracias, another one of our first-time starters here, will finish 23rd. Doug Neal, we didn't see much of Doug tonight, unfortunately, as he will finish in 24th. Robert Dudley, not the night that 15 truck needed, as he was looking to make some ground up on those chase drivers. He'll finish 25th. The 12 of Gerald Baker, rather, he another one of those guys with his first start tonight. He'll finish 26th. Paul Bilson, a very quiet night. We didn't see much from that 51 truck, as he will finish in 27th. 3 laps down. Steven Doziak, the sponsor of our race winner, will bring it home in 28th. Adam Dama had some misfortune occur for him. Started 11th, will finish in that 29th position. Matt Vanderkoy will finish in 30th. Brian Bradley in 31st. Monty Glover in that 10 truck, 32nd. Ray Heilig, not sure really what happened to that 7 truck. He'll finish in 33rd. And Stan Hausman in that 39 truck ended up last in 34th position, Peter.
Yeah, do you think Steven Doziak is wishing he didn't sponsor that number 94 truck because that'd be an extra spot out there on the racetrack? I don't know. Race car drivers, man, I'll tell you what, every spot matters for them. I'm wondering if he's scratching his head going, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But before we go, we got to give a shout out to the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. And of course, that tonight does go to Nicholas Bradley in the number 40 machine. He gained 13 positions in tonight's race, started in 34th, finished in the 21st position. So a big shout out to him in that number 40 truck. Good job keeping it pretty clean and putting on a just outside of top 20 run. But of course, Taz Racing Customs, make sure you check them out for all of the custom diecasts, all your custom diecast needs, whether it's a custom iRacing vehicle or perhaps, a custom NASCAR or something like that. Go check out our friends over at Taz Racing Customs because they are able to hook you up. But as the lights will turn off at some point here tonight at Kentucky Speedway, fantastic race here tonight, Drew. Like I've said multiple times, this could be the race of the season, in my opinion, which I wasn't expecting here at a 1.5 mile track, which doesn't usually put on great racing, but obviously tonight, stellar job by the whole field to put on a stellar show. I don't know about next week at North Wilkesboro. North Wilkesboro has a lot to live up to after tonight's race.
Yeah, North Wilkesboro is kind of one of those things where we so often in life are kind of victims to the myth of the past. And North Wilkesboro, I thought, was going to be one of those tracks where it was never going to live up to the image of what it was, right? It was kind of this almost like mythological place where NASCAR went when it was at its height. And then going there, it's a really awesome track. You have all sorts of topographic variations, right? The straightaways are either you're going down into a corner, you're going up a hill into the next one. The corners aren't quite the same. It's a unique challenge. It's a track that I really like, that I've only driven in the 87 cars, to be honest, but it's going to present a unique challenge. There really is not an oval that I think can really give us a hint on what's gonna transpire there. I don't think Bristol or Martinsville is a really good indicator of a driver's performance abilities and predictors at North Wilkesboro. And I'm really excited, Peter. I think it's going to give a great show. It's a multiple groove track. It can be really hard to pass, a ton of side-by-side racing. And given tonight at a track that tends to not produce the racing that we saw, I think it's going to be a good race tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but next week, rather, next Friday.
Man, maybe we should do it tomorrow with how good of a race tonight was. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, it has been a stellar one, and thanks for everyone joining here in the YouTube channel, and make sure to give the video a like. So not only are you helping us out here on 3YT, but you're also helping out the National Sim Racing Association, giving them more coverage, as well as their sponsors, such as Simbox, among many others, the Brookstone Animal Hospital, we got Lynchburg t-shirts, just a whole bunch, sim racing shirts as well. great sponsors that put together this league. But Drew, I think that's just about going to do it here on 3Y TV until we meet everyone again. It's the same time, same place right here on this YouTube channel for more National Sim Racing Association action next week at North Wilkesboro, which we've mentioned multiple times. But for myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisenman, stay safe, everyone. Happy New Year, and we'll see you then. See ya.